Apple doubled its biggest bug bounty reward to $2 million. Chinese regulators are investigating Qualcomm's acquisition of Autotalks, and someone programmed a 65-year-old computer to play boards of Canada's Olson. It's Friday, October 10th, and here's a quick look at tech in the news this morning from Engadget. Apple is updating its security bounty program this November to offer some of the highest rewards in the industry. It has doubled its top award from $1 million to $2 million for the discovery of exploit chains that can achieve similar goals as sophisticated mercenary spyware attacks, and which requires no user interaction. But the maximum possible payout could exceed $5 million for the discovery of more critical vulnerabilities, such as bugs in beta software and lockdown mode bypasses. Lockdown mode is an upgraded security architecture in the Safari browser. In addition, the company is rewarding the discovery of exploit chains with one-click user interaction with up to $1 million instead of just $250,000. The reward for attacks requiring physical proximity to devices can now also go up to $1 million, up from $250,000, while the maximum reward for attacks requiring physical access to locked devices has been doubled to $500,000. Finally, researchers who demonstrate chaining web content code execution with a sandbox escape can receive up to $300,000. Apple's VP for Security Engineering and Architecture, Ivan Kirstich, told Wired that the company has awarded over $35 million to more than 800 security researchers since it introduced and expanded the program over the past few years. Apparently, top-dollar payouts are very rare, but Apple has made multiple $500,000 payouts. The company said in its announcement that the only system-level iOS attacks it has observed in the wild came from mercenary spyware, which are historically associated with state actors and typically used to target specific individuals. It said its new security features like lockdown mode and memory integrity enforcement, which combats memory corruption vulnerabilities, can make mercenary attacks more difficult to pull off. However, bad actors will continue evolving their techniques, and Apple is hoping that updating its bounty program with bigger payouts can encourage highly advanced research on its most critical attack surfaces, despite the increased difficulty. China's antitrust regulator has opened an investigation into Qualcomm's acquisition of Israeli connected vehicle chip company Autotalks. The State Administration for Market Regulation, or SAMR, alleges that Qualcomm is suspected of violating China's anti-monopoly laws by not disclosing certain details of the deal. Qualcomm had initially agreed to acquire the fabless chip company in 2023 to expand its Snapdragon portfolio into more automotive applications. Autotalks creates chips, sensors, and vehicle-to-everything communication tech centered in part on safety for vehicles. It has been a few months since the acquisition was finalized, with the new probe coming amid trade negotiations between the U.S. and China. The deal was previously investigated by both the U.S. Federal Trade Commission and the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, with Qualcomm temporarily abandoning the acquisition early last year. Now, the exact process of how the deal was reopened is not clear, as the acquisition was only announced once it had been finalized and received regulatory approval. Last month, SAMR said that NVIDIA's $6.9 billion acquisition of Mellanox also ran afoul of national regulations. The regulators also said the deal violated conditional terms outlined by regulators on initial approval. The Financial Times reported that China's regulators held on to that decision for months, purportedly to gain leverage in trade discussions with the U.S. The bulk of these investigations have come while the U.S. and China are engaged in negotiations around a TikTok deal, tariffs, trade, and more. Today, China drastically expanded its export controls for rare earth minerals, targeting defense and semiconductor companies outside the country. The programmed Data Processor 1 is perhaps most recognizable as the home of Spacewar, one of the world's first video games, but it also works as an enormous and very slow iPod as well. In a video, boards of Canada's Olson plays off of paper tape that's been carefully fed and programmed into the PDP-1 by engineer and computer history museum docent Peter Samson. It is the final product of Joe Lynch's PDP-1 music project, an attempt to translate the short and atmospheric song into something the PDP-1 can reproduce. As Lynch wrote on GitHub, the Harmony compiler used to translate Olson to paper tape was actually created by Samson to play audio through 4 of the computer's light bulbs while he was a student at MIT back in the 1960s. He used it to recreate classical music, but it'll work with 90s electronic music in a pinch too. While these bulbs were originally intended to provide program status information to the computer operator, Lynch wrote that Peter repurposed 4 of those light bulbs into 4 square wave generators, or put another way, 4 1-bit DACs, by turning the bulbs on and off at audio frequencies. The signal from each bulb is then downmixed into stereo audio channels, transcribed via an emulator, and merged into a single file that has to be manually punched into the paper tape that's then fed into the PDP-1. It is a laborious process for playing even the simplest of songs, but it's worth it to hear boards of Canada's already nostalgic music from an even older classic computer. And if you'd like to check it out, I've put a link to the video in the show notes. Thanks for listening. There's more to these stories and more tech news at Engadget.com. This episode featured journalism from Mariella Moon, Andre Revilla, and Ian Carlos Campbell, and was voiced and produced from the sound studios of Spoken Layer by me, Steve White. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll be back on Monday with more tech news from Engadget.